Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Liam's Hockey. Yeah boy, they're hit and miss, there's no question about that. Been a little while since I talked to you last, got a little bit of news to catch up on for sure in the hockey world. Of course, this show is brought to you each and every time by my dear friend Rod Brown of Hosie and Brown Automotive. And I will be doing my shot momentarily, and in a few minutes time anyway, when you wrap this up, and it'll be a special celebration for what we saw on TV last night, that being Montreal Winnipeg Game 3. I'll get to that in just a second. Rep on the St. Mark Athletics t-shirt today, the high school where both my children went, Rory and Shanna, and where I've spoken many times and have numerous friends teaching there. So that's what I got on today, wearing it proudly, and I hope they're doing as well as possible. It's been a tough time, hasn't it, for everybody, as the single entity that seems to be behind the world in COVID and the responses and all of the necessary ramifications that have come as because of it is the province of Ontario. So incrementally here, it sounds like starting next week, the 11th, they say now, I guess in 4 days, if this holds true, we'll begin a new phase of reopenings. God willing, this will be the start of getting all the way back to normalcy. So, anyway, that said, I want to move along here very quickly and hammer this out. As I said, been a little while since I talked to you last. Really haven't said anything since the incredible comeback of the Montreal Canadiens. The most devastating loss in Toronto Maple Leaf history, franchise history, and the greatest comeback in Montreal Canadian history, by far, bar none. They lose Game 4, 4-0. This puppy's over. I called the Leafs in 5. Not going to be a hypocrite here and say, yeah, I saw all this, like my dear friend Tom Boyven, whose birthday is today, by the way. Tried to tell me on Facebook that he predicted it all. So did a few others. Laughable, really. But God loved their passion and their willingness to cheer openly, as we all should, for your favorite team. In the case of Leaf fans, look, this has been a real tough one, man. This is the worst game of whack-a-mole that's ever existed, where Leaf fans, would raise their head up typically in October after a couple of regular season wins, plan the parade, and then all the rest of the hockey world would whack-a-mole them down there. And because slowly over the course of the season, they'll dissipate and disappear, and every now and then show some bravado when they do something good, most recently being Austin Matthews becoming the premier goal scorer in the NHL and won the Rocket Richard this year. Would have won it last year had they not run into the league being shut down with COVID. More than likely would have won it last year as well. So he is a premier goal scorer in the regular season, and now is challenging to try and get to that next level. But they are now have been hammered down. They, being Leaf fans, it's the permanent. The game is over. The game is over now, really, regardless of what they do next regular season, until the playoffs and until they find a way to get a series win. I mean, this is ridiculous. 2004, 17 full years. It's 18 seasons. It's, I guess, 17 because we didn't play in 04, 05, and they beat Ottawa in 04. It was the last time they won a first round. You're up 3-1 against your arch rival. You won Game 4, 4-0. So what happened? So Montreal played Game 5s and 6 and 7, although they had less pushback in 7, but they played 5 and 6 were their two best games of the series for sure. And that play was very reminiscent of how they started the season. Wouldn't say it was quite that, because those first 8 or 10 games were insane. Caught everybody off guard, myself included. But that's how they played 5 and 6. They caught the Leafs in Game 5 on their heels a little bit, and still Montreal blew a lead. And Toronto came back and forced overtime. We all know what happened. Galchenyuk gave it away, 2-0, boom, 59 seconds in. They lose Game 5. Game 6, same thing. Big lead, Habs. Leafs are folding. They're folding like they're falling in the fall. The Leafs, here go the Leafs. Again, the Leafs. And again, a massive comeback to force overtime. And this was the game that they needed to get the win. They were out shooting Montreal 13-1 in OT when Kotkaniemi came down, giveaway by Kerfoot, I believe it was, on a Byron over to KK, takes a shot, hit Bogosian's shin pad, and it goes tied series. And then the most disparaging thing, if you are a Leaf fan, has to be Game 7. All sorts of teams have given up series leads like that. The Canadians got to deal with that tonight and try and hope that they can close this series now. Get there in a second. But all sorts of teams have blown leads and then have gone on to win Game 7 at the very least. But not Toronto. And if you're a Leaf fan, this has to be the most disparaging thing and the most depressing thing, because they absolutely mailed it in Game 7. Now, mailed it in the sense, not they're going, oh God, I can't wait to get off the ice, get out of this city, get away, do this, that, and the other. They just had nothing in the tank to really. So mailing in isn't really the right description. It's more the malaise that hit that whole team, and it had to start from the coaching staff down. And look at when Matthews and Marner were unable to generate anything offensively, and you're relying on a banged-up Hyman and hoping that your secondary and third-line scoring, which got exposed when the other guys can't score. They got exposed. Then, they lost Muzzin for Game 7. And Johnny T, of course, was still out from the accident in Game 1 with Corey Perry. And there you have it. I mean, the team collapsed. They imploded internally, whereas Montreal went into Game 5 and circled the wagons, to use the old Western expression. Just said, we're going to fight our way from inside out. And that's what they did. And the Leafs just collapsed internally. They imploded internally, and as a result suffered their worst loss in franchise history. That's a big, big thing to overcome. Now, I've seen all the reports. Going to move off this very quickly because we're long past it. They have played countless rounds of golf since then. There's many, many memes out there, funny as hell, describing their demise. I mean, let's be honest. I know so many Leaf fans, the overwhelming majority of them, great people, good friends, friends for life in some cases. Go way back with tons of them. I mean, I've been around. I was alive when they won that cup in '67, so I can speak to it. But as I was a young boy anyway, but I certainly remember the incidents at St. Leonard's Elementary, and the fighting between the Montreal fans and Toronto fans was vicious back then. But all that to say, the overall Leaf fandom that has been a sore on the hockey community took a massive blow. They just disappeared under rocks on Twitter, that's for sure. And many people, most, in fact, hockey fans, have no problem with that, and we're quite happy with that. I feel a little bit for my hardcore Leaf fan buddies. We banter back and forth. I got a case of beer bet with my dear friend Dave Eastwood, commonly and lovingly referred to as Boo. He owes me a case of what will now be Molson X. I don't know what I was going to get him. Probably some 3% stuff or something. But but you know what? That's just a tough loss, man. And they've got to do some soul searching. They're going to bring everybody back, it looks like. They got to figure out what they're going to do with Hyman. More than likely, early reports are circulating they may lose him. Is it crushing? No, but it's not a healthy loss. But at the end of the day, the reason some of the players that have been moved out, whether it be a Connor Brown, who just lit it up for Team Canada in the Worlds, like played the best hockey of his life for Canada in the World Championships. Whole other story. I got to include them in the toast as well. Connor Brown and Nick Paul, the Ottawa Senators, with a golden goal, 2-on-1 and a 3-on-3 OT. If you haven't seen it, of course you have. But the Leafs have to give him away. You got to give Tyson Barrie away. Like, you're moving guys out, you're bringing in. You went with Joe Thornton, which was a laughable signing, really. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer all day, but at 41, going on 90, he got exposed. I mean, the guy who probably played the best or second best on the team next to Nylander in those 7 games was Jason Spezza. And he's almost 100. And they got nothing out of Foligno. He played hurt as well. I mean, this is the thing come playoff time, right? And, of course, at the end of the day, Campbell played his heart out, But then he pulled a Patrick Lalime from 2004, and what's he going to be remembered for? He's giving up that Gallagher goal in Game 7. Despite their collapse, their epic, iconic, historic collapse, if they score first in Game 7, they could have conceivably won that game. We don't know now because no one's scoring first against the Habs in the last little while. Maybe Winnipeg will tonight. Maybe they'll come back and be the fifth team to erase a 3-0 deficit. But Toronto blew it and didn't get it done. And they deserve every single sling and arrow coming their way. Most notably, Matthews and Marner. They need to obviously now do some serious soul searching. And whether it's a video breakdown, whether it's showing them, I said earlier in the season, Montreal's case, about Jonathan Drouin before he left the team, that, and this is ironic because I'm going to mention a Winnipeg Jet that I really like, and that's Kyle Connor. And I was saying that I wonder, is it, we don't know. I have never sat in on an NHL video session. I've certainly had, I interviewed Roger Nielsen about when he started breaking down video in the 70s and how he brought it. And I know today, I mean, my God, we watch them on the bench sitting with their iPads and everything. They see everything immediately. But I've often wondered why you couldn't take a guy like Jonathan Drouin, who's such an outstanding junior, drafted as high as he was, and we all know his trouble in Tampa, and he comes to Montreal, and he had some fleeting moments, but obviously more bad than good, and we don't want to, whatever's going on with the man right now, I just pray to God his health, mental and physical returns, that he can live a happy, healthy, normal life. If he can get back on the ice and help the Habs, fantastic. But right now, that's a much, much more secondary thing. But I always wondered, could they not isolate video of other players on other teams and say, you could be this guy. You could do this. You have his skill. You just have to change a few little things, You've got to be a little smarter with the puck in the neutral zone. You've got to be a little smarter in positioning on the back check. You've got to be a little more sure-handed and sure-minded in terms of what you're doing offensively. And look, it doesn't come when you're in a malaise and you're down and you're second-guessing yourself. It's not an easy transition, but someday you got to pump these guys up, man, in 2021. It's not like Punch Imlach and Jack Adams and Toe Blake and back in the day where the threat was, I'll send you so far the hockey news won't find you, and that was enough because you needed to provide for your family, and that $7,000 or $8,000 or $9,000 a year you were making was the only damn way you were going to do it. So you went out and went through brick walls, and you understood what it took, and you did it. And today, a lot of guys don't have that, and Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner need to have that fear instilled in them. Clearly, their talent is there. Undoubtedly, they're both going to be on their respective national teams. Matthews for the States and Marner for Canada. Barring something really unforeseen. Matthews for sure is a lock, and I think Marner is too, probably. Although his stock, they both have taken a shot here. But why can't you do video sessions and show them this is what you need to be like come playoff time? Excuse me. It's such a massively different animal. I just was on Twitter. I'm on all the time, but going back and forth with somebody because I guess today in the, or the other day in one of the post-game pressers, because questions are coming up about why the Canadians aren't playing Romanov, their hotshot 20-year-old Russian defenseman. He hasn't gotten a playoff game yet, and he's pretty heralded and came over, played most of the regular season, and actually played pretty well for most of it. I mean, the Habs sucked at the end of the season. They backed into that playoff spot, 59 points, the whole 9 yards. He didn't play well either at the end of the season, but nobody did. That said, he hasn't been able to get in a game, so what the hell's going on? That's what everybody, so the question came up, and, it's sometimes what goes on behind the scenes and what can be said and shown to these players, we just don't know. So you've got these Toronto Maple Leaf players and their coaching staff have to do some inner soul searching here, just like what is undoubtedly going on with the Montreal Canadian coaching staff in respect to Romanov, only in Montreal's case, having won the last 6 games that they've played in the playoffs, which they have not done since 1993. They have not had 4 shorthanded goals in one playoff year since 1986. And they haven't had this long of a stretch with the lead since 1978. I mean, what they're doing right now is ridiculous statistically. But who's it against? Toronto Maple Leafs, who collapsed like an accordion, and the Winnipeg Jets, who have shown little or no muster since the Scheifele suspension, the DeMello injury, and just an absolute malaise that's come over their team as well. That has been taken away by the Montreal Canadiens. Give them credit for sure. And Carey Price has played outstanding. He's been very, very good. And now all of a sudden the Canadiens are scoring again. So you give Carey 3 goals. In the playoffs, historically, is shown very, very difficult to beat. He's 14 or 15-0 in the playoffs with Montreal scoring 3 or more goals, going back to 2015 when they beat the Ottawa Senators. So, Leafs are going to bring everybody back that they can. And I don't think that that's the wrong call. I'll give everybody one more shot too, frankly, as a Leaf fan. If you are one, probably that's what you're saying. Give us a healthy Johnny T, bring Muzzin back, make a couple more changes, Most of us would say, you're just shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. But no, I mean, there's got to be a way to instill what's necessary. Has to be a way in Matthews and Marner. They can't possibly just be that good in the regular season and incapable of finding another playoff gear. I refuse, or a gear in the playoffs. I refuse to believe it. I really believe that they will improve. And I do believe in their tenure on Toronto, they will win a playoff series. I'll finish on this note with regards to the Leafs, because the biggest thing that Leaf fans now have been just forced back into a dark place as a fan right now is you cannot speak about this team being a cup contender again, ever, until you successfully win a 4th game in a playoff series. It's as simple as that. You got to get her done, baby, in the postseason. At least one time, get these guys over the hump, and who knows what happens there. Lots of question marks with Campbell and net going forward. Lots of question marks if the D's good enough, healthy, and clearly lots of question marks even with a healthy Johnny T. Can the big guns carry the load in the postseason? So they've got some serious questions there. Conversely, the Montreal Canadiens have rolled right from that into Game 1 against Winnipeg in their barn and kept the hot play going. Great goaltending by Carey Price, timely scoring by Montreal. They take a lead. It's a back and forth affair. Winnipeg with the great big pushback. And then, coming within 1 goal again after the Habs extended the 2-goal lead. Winnipeg comes with 1 again. They pull Hellebuck, and then all hell broke loose. And just on the Scheifele hit, again, now significantly in the rearview mirror here as he has now served 2 of his 4-game suspension. Baffling, mind-blowing, and mind-boggling to me, the percentage of people who went on social media and championed that as a good hit. But here's what you got to understand. The overwhelming majority of them, they're haters. They have agendas. They don't understand that they haven't been able to comprehend that is a hit, a type of hit that the NHL wants out of the game. Lastly, they just don't understand the mechanics of a hit and of a charge. They don't understand it. The ones that argued because he stopped striding and glided in, misunderstood. The ones who think because the very, very point of contact from Scheifele's body to Evans was upper chest before he exploded on his head and rest of his torso, they just don't get it. They don't get it how egregious a foul that was, regardless of how unlikely it was for him to do. Even I spent about 5 minutes going back and forth with one guy, and I can't remember which social media platform it was, before he told me, well, I didn't watch the game, I just watched the highlights. This is the other thing. I mean, if you didn't see Scheifele lose his mind in that scrum in the third period, he gives Shoutout a cross-check to the back of the neck, he comes off, bucket off, he's swinging on everything. They give him the only penalty, Montreal scores on the power play. That's when they went up 4-2. So he is steaming. He already was off his rocker. I mean, keep in mind, they're heading to their first playoff loss. And it couldn't have been a good feeling. You know, it will not be tonight if by chance they do come back and win this game. It'll be tough for Montreal after winning 6 to digest that. You'll see, you should be pissed off at the end of a game. But he traveled the length of the ice, and in my opinion, and clearly as defined by Department of Player Safety in their video, he, from the top of the circle, knew there was no way he was preventing that goal. But he saw an opportunity to light Evans up, and he said, I'm going to crush this man, and he did. And 20 years ago, Scott Stevens, 30 years ago, Wendell Clark, 40 years ago, Hound Dog Kelly, 50 years ago, Eddie Shack, you know, go down. I'll give you somebody every single decade that played that way, that produced hits that way, that ran guys over that way, and they were all champion then. But they want that hit out of the game. And that's why he got suspended as significantly as he did. Originally, I called 2 games. I thought after listening to a lot of people in the media who follow the game as closely as I do, said, no, this is really, really serious. They're going to do something here. And I thought, okay, man, it's going to be 3 games. And then it ends up being 4. So that's punitive. No doubt about it. And as Paul Byron said, in probably finish on the Scheifele hit on this, Paul Byron suspended a couple of years ago, as most of you know, for a charge, I believe it was as well, and said totally reckless moment on his behalf, regrets it tremendously, and said he'll never do it again. And it's just one of those things that sometimes good guys, great players, do bad things, and that's what happened here. I'm a fan of all the Canadian cities. I'm a fan of the Winnipeg Jets. I'm a huge Scheifele fan. I've told countless people this year, I cannot wait to see this guy on Team Canada playing with McDavid and McKinnon, among others, next year. He is so freaking good. I just love him as a player. I really do. And despite where I saw the stats, he's way down on hits, his 12 penalty minutes and everything else. Man, he plays a hard-nosed game. You know, he kind of reminds me of Eddie Westfall. It's a name that most of you won't remember. But Eddie Westfall got his Stanley Cups with the Boston Bruins in 70 and 72. He was with the team when they were brutal. He stayed with them through the time when they became good. And this guy was a perennial Lady Byng candidate. And I think maybe you wouldn't put Scheifele necessarily in the Lady Byng conversation, maybe never anymore. But point is that, you know, I got a chance to meet Eddie personally. I caddied for him in 1977, and by now he had been with the New York Islanders for a few years and was taking them out of their initial stages of where they were the worst team in NHL history. They had that record at one point in 72-73, and Eddie was their first captain, and he guided that team out of dry dock. And when I got to meet him and shake his hand and talk hockey with him and just feel his tenacity and his drive and his commitment, and then I went, man, I'm going to watch this guy different on the ice from now on. Because all I really knew, you know, excellent penalty killer with Derek Sanderson and the Boston Bruins, big bad Bruins of which he was not one. And then I look at Mark Scheifele and I said, yeah, he kind of reminds me of Eddie Westfall back in the day, you know, who just never goes for bad, but is hard on the puck, is talented as all get out, you know, great disher, decent shot, massive compete level. And I saw that similarity, and then this. So sometimes good guys, great players do bad things, and that's what happened here. And that was a bad thing. For anybody to say different, I'm sorry, but that's just moronic and incredibly incompetent on you as a hockey fan to think and feel that way. So here we have the Canadiens up 3-0, and it's just been an unreal run. Again, it's against the North Division, the weakest division in hockey since the old Chuck Norris division in the 80s, where you could finish a billion games under 500 and make the playoffs. This will be proven next series, will be my thought. I know everybody's saying Carey Price and the Habs are on a mission. It's laughable. But that said, stranger things have happened. I certainly will cheer for the Habs. I'm a hardcore Hab fan. And I hope they can continue this ride. I hope they can close Winnipeg tonight. Petrie will be out. He's got dislocated fingers. And so we've got a change there. So their vaunted big four on D that have been eating the lion's share of the minutes. You think they were going to roll in and they're going to play Vegas, who I believe will ultimately win this series. But regardless of who it is, and that's funny because I was one of the guys who wrote after Game 1 when Colorado smoked Vegas. And I said, boy, oh boy, look out. How's anybody going to beat Colorado? And frankly, the next 3 games, Vegas have been the best team. They really should be up in this series. Instead, it's tied. But now we'll see what answer Colorado has on home ice. But if you are watching Montreal Winnipeg like last night and then went and watched Vegas Colorado and you're unable to see the difference, that's on you. We'll soon see, regardless of who comes out of the North, and now we know it's Montreal or Winnipeg. I think either one of them are in a world of hurt against Vegas or Colorado. Will they win some periods? Maybe a game? Yeah, absolutely. Could they do something more? Hey, look. There's the history of upsets in NHL history and teams that have come out of nowhere to win Stanley Cups. There's been 2 teams with sub-500 records to win the Stanley Cup. The 1938 Chicago Blackhawks and the 1951 Toronto Maple Leafs and the Bill Baruchel goal. They weren't even a 500 hockey club that year, Toronto, and won the Stanley Cup. So, I mean, that's just back then. What about the Habs in 93? What about, go down the line, what about New Jersey, 1995? I mean, there's been so many. What about Carolina in 2006? Who had them as Stanley Cup champions that year? Who had them playing the Edmonton Oilers in the final in 2006? That's not that long ago. So, you know, you need look no further in some cases in recent history. And we know we had just not that long ago when LA came back and won their second Stanley Cup. You know, I mean, LA's the last team to lose the first 3, win the next 4. And you only have to go back 3-4 years before that when the Philadelphia Flyers did it to the Boston Bruins. So sometimes momentum can be a big time switch and away you go. That's the way it's gone, man. That's the way it's gone. So that's it. Yeah, I'm going to get out of here. And look, very quickly, Boston Islanders Game 5 tonight. Just an unreal series. Man, if you haven't thrown an eyeball on that, get an eye on that. That is by far the roughest series right now. Tampa Bay is owning Carolina. Well, I called Carolina to win that division. I totally undersold the fact that Kucherov was coming back and Stamkos was going to play. Have you seen Kucherov play? It's like he's in his MVP year a couple years ago. He's unfreaking believable. He is so good. And they're really Stammer's just getting the engine going. He scored a nice one the other day. I mean, that second period, any other team, I think, any other time of year, Carolina wins that last game. In the second period, what Tampa is doing on the power play right now is as scary as I've seen anybody since the 70s Habs, really, on the power play. I mean, it is ridiculous what they are doing on the power play right now. And for them to erase the leads that they did in that last game against Carolina, who are really, really good. Like, they are solid. They are a solid squad, man. I love their defense. Mrazek, they put him in. Those are tough goals. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't let those goals in. Those last couple of goals, you cannot let them in. And it's going to kill you every time. Jack Campbell, Game 7. Patrick Lalime, 2004. Go down the line. How many times? Everybody talks about Detroit winning those Stanley Cups in 97 and 98. Go back in 97. Watch the highlights in that final against the Philadelphia Flyers in Game 1 and Game 2. Watch the goals that were scored on Ron Hextall and Garth Snow from center ice. Okay? From just over center ice. Oh, people can say about Jacques Lemaire in 1971. Difference there, May 1871, a little bit of fog on the ice. Tony went down in his standard butterfly. I mean, Lemaire shot that puck from outside the blue line, probably about 2-3 strides just over center, and he walked on it. Tony O's thinking, no way, this thing's rifling over my shoulder. A little bit of fog on the ice goes down. Of course, Tony catches this hand, and boom, top corner. Comeback was on. Henri Richard took care of the rest. That's one of the greatest playoff series of all time. But it can happen, man. And you need goaltending. It's pretty hard. You could say the Penguins maybe in 91 and 92 didn't need a Vezina winner back there in Tom Barrasso, even though he is a previous Vezina winner. But he wasn't with the Pittsburgh Penguins. But, I mean, he played good. But it wasn't like they really needed. Maybe you make the same case about Grant Fuhr with the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, they didn't care. Somebody scored 5, they would just go out and score 6. But Grant Fuhr, to me, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm all over the map here right now. Getting off on it. Let's shut her down. Go Habs go. See if they can shut the deal tonight. I wanted to get on. And I want to finish, obviously, with our garage of the day. Beams Automotive is the garage we're going to sponsor today, courtesy of Hosie and Brown. And I had a long chat today with, so Beams Automotive is owned by two gentlemen, two great guys, John and Danny. They've been friends for years. They originally worked together. That's where they met, at Gary's Automotive in Orleans, if I'm not mistaken. So they go way back, and they decided to do their own thing. Not that long ago, only about 4.5 years ago. They're tucked in on Cedarview Road, 822 Cedarview Road. Easy to access. You can get it coming up Fallowfield. You can get it coming off Strandherd from the south. You can come off the 417 and beyond there in seconds. You can even get there from the British Hotel. If you can cross the border, if there was no COVID. Bottom line is, it's very easy to find. 822 Cedarview Road, full service mechanics, 3 bays, open 4.5 years. And what I love about them, I talked to John today, and we talked about they do everything. They've got the tire services too, like most places do. Always try and find, if I can, a little angle that separates these guys. And these guys, this is what it is for them. It's their name. Tell me this isn't the coolest. Beams Automotive, B-E-A-M-S, like it sounds, except it's spelled B-E-A squared M-S. Why? Because John and Danny each have 3 children. And those are the first initials of all of their names. There's 2 A's. There's a B, there's an E, there's an M, and there's an S. So it's Beams Automotive, and they've got A squared for the 2 A's. I thought that was the coolest. And if there needed to be even another bit of serendipity, John's wife is a school teacher, and she works at the same school as one of Rod Brown's daughters. So they've got a great tie-in that way through family. They've got a tie-in, obviously, through the automotive industry. And listening to John today talk about how much he cherishes his relationship with Hosie and Brown, and anyone who is a client of Hosie and Brown knows that is reciprocated 10 times by Rod and company there. And so it was just great to catch up with John today. So Beams Automotive, 822 Cedarview. Get your butts in there. Give them a call. Get an estimate. Get the work done. You won't be disappointed. 2 great guys doing their own thing and loving it there. And you gotta love the name. Gotta love the name. Here goes the cap to Signal Hill. Look at this beauty. Look at that. Signal Hill, Newfoundland. Who's been there? I got this sent to me by John Poirier, who we have gotten to know each other more online, even though we did meet prior at General Hillier's retirement party that I emceed at the War Memorial here in Ottawa. John sent me this fantastic bottle, and I'm going to finish today toasting Team Canada for that outstanding comeback. First team to ever win a gold medal, losing 4 games. First team to ever win a gold medal, starting the tournament going 0-3. And they come back, they beat the Russians, who were the highest scoring team. That never, ever, ever gets tired, beating the Russians. Then they knocked off the Americans, which is fantastic, because they lost to them 5-1 earlier. It's so tough to win, to beat a team twice in the same tourney. Anytime I played, anytime I coached, so freaking tough to do. Canada held up that end of the bargain there, beating the States, and then knocked off Finland, who beat them in the gold 2 years ago. Couldn't ask for better. Well, you could. They did it in overtime. They did it coming back. They were down 1-0 and 2-1. They did it the Canadian way. And then just a fantastic play. Nick Paul loses a draw, picks up the puck anyway, feeds Browner. They go up the ice, back and forth, 2-on-1. Over to Connor, back to Nick Paul, golden goal, game over, series over, practice over, no one else left to beat. Team Canada, saluting them. Saluting also my dear friend Rocket Ronnie Warwaruk, just turning 60. We celebrated last weekend. Going to wish him a happy birthday here. And finally, Guy Lafleur. How good was that? To see Guy Lafleur last night, sitting between Réjean Houle and Yvan Cournoyer. 20 Stanley Cup rings. So good to see them in the Bell Center. So good to see Guy, who looks fantastic. Beating the big seed back, not once but twice. He just looked great last night. If that building had been full, the ovation would have been historic. As it was, nice round of applause. Hopefully maybe we can get that again down the road. But for now, just go and get business done tonight at Canadien à Montreal. And hopefully we can get by this pesky Jet team here and close the series off tonight. They're playing well, no doubt about it. John Poirier, thank you, sir, for this outstanding... John sent an incredible story about his life growing up, losing his father early, and the efforts of his mother for that family all those years ago. And I've been to Signal Hill, and there used to be, I was on Terry Ryan's podcast not that long ago, and of course, you know, he lives right there in St. John's, and I said, there used to be a plaque. I don't know if it's a plaque or a sign or something. He says, they change things all the time, but so I'm not sure if it's still there somewhere in the Signal Hill area. But I remember when I was there in 1999, and we were there for a few days, and I had time to walk around a little bit and travel just a little bit around the St. John's area, not nowhere else around Newfoundland. But I was up there, and the sign said, next stop, the west coast of Ireland. And they had the kilometers. I thought that was so cool. I thought of my father coming over by boat in the early 50s with his 2 friends, and it just gave me quite a feeling. So now they've got this Canadian whiskey called Signal Hill. Does it get any better than that? So John Poirier, thank you, sir. Let's go Habs, and again, kudos to everybody else, and especially Guy Lafleur, seeing you last night. All the best, everybody. Stay safe. Beams Automotive, courtesy of Hosie and Brown. Take care. G'day.